Hi everyone, welcome back to the session. Hi everyone, welcome back to the session. We hope that you are able to have a quick break after the session just now. Let's wait for a few more seconds while we waiting for more participants to join back to the session. Yes, Sarita, you are back. Great.
You got the speaker link.
Okay, great. I can see we already have around 76 people in the session. So once again, welcome back to the session. We hope that you are still keep energetic and excited for this session. And now is the time for our opening ceremony. And now I would like to next we will listen to an official welcome for the Asia Pacific Youth Network Task Force representative, who is Mr. Ilahi Muhammad Roshan, who is a APYN Task Force member and a youth leader from the Bangladesh Red Crescent Society. Let us welcome Ilahi.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheng Yang, for invitation. And my dear participants of the AP Wine virtual gathering, distinguished guests, speakers, organizers, and the members of the Red Cross Red Crescent movement who are watching this live. On behalf of the AP Wine, I officially welcome you all in this 3 days long AP Wine virtual gathering. My name is Muhammad Ilahi Roshan. I'm a youth volunteer from Bangladesh Red Crescent Society and also one of the task force members of the APYN reformation team. Asia Pacific Youth Network, as you know, was formally established in 2010 during the Asia Pacific Regional Conference, and since then, this network acted as the collective body of the Asia Pacific national societies. The Asia Pacific Youth Summit has been organized alongside the Asia Pacific Regional Conference and developed the youth declarations, the most recent one being in Manila in 2018, where the Asia Pacific National Societies decided to focus on strengthening and enhancing the sub-regional youth networks and their engagement through a reformed APYN. And in this response, in 2021, APYN formally started the discussion on its reformation process. Why? Because it wanted to be more inclusive, sustainable, effective, and innovative platform from the youth in the Asia Pacific region. And in this regard, in 2021, it revised its terms of reference, which later endorsed by the national societies of the Asia Pacific region and all the sub-regional networks. The new vision of the Asia Pacific Youth Network is to become a dynamic and resilient youth platform that inspires and mobilize youth in the Asia Pacific to promote positive, innovative change and the culture of non-violence and peace in our communities to tackle the growing humanitarian challenges within the Asia Pacific region and beyond. And now we have organized this virtual event to get together with the youth in the Asia Pacific region to celebrate their contribution, especially during this crisis moment, and also to reflect what we are expecting from the reformed APYN. The objective of this event is to strengthening the connection among the youth in the Asia Pacific region and identify the priority of the APY in upcoming years. Reflect on the COVID-19 and celebrate youth's contribution. And lastly, learn the global thematic topics and strengthening the partnership among APY and other partners. In these 3 days events, in this 3 days virtual gathering, we have more than 150 participants from 27 national societies. We have speakers and partners from all over the world. During this time, we will have plenty of opportunity to learn and network with different platforms through the core sessions, through the thematic sessions, through the exhibitions, and through dialogue. I would request all the participants to join these interactive sessions, learn from it, and make new connections. Finally, I would like to conclude my speech by showing my heartiest gratitude to all the speakers, our distinguished guests, the host, Malaysian Red Crescent Society, the technical team, and mostly the organizers who put their efforts to make this event happen. I hope all of you will have a great time ahead and you will enjoy this gathering. Thank you.
Let's go off mute. Thank you so much, Elahi, for welcoming us all from the Asia Pacific Youth Network Task Force. It really is appreciated, your kind words and your welcoming statements. I believe Chinya is just having a few technical difficulties. He should be up here with me. He's next up for introducing our next speaker. Just give us one moment while he joins us. Instead, we welcome Mariko, I think.
Yeah, sorry, but it's me actually. Some technical technical difficulties in the platform, but no worries. So thanks Ilahi for sharing his welcome note to all our youth representative in the Asia Pacific region. So next, we will be hearing from the welcoming remarks from the host national society, which is the Malaysian Red Crescent Society. So we would like to invite Her Highness Datuk Seri Diraja Tan Sri Tunku Puteri Intan Sapinas binti Almarhum Sultan Abdul Halim Wadzam Shah Tunku Temunggung Kedah, which is also the chairperson of the Malaysian Red Crescent Society, to deliver her welcoming speech. The floor is yours, Tunku.
Thank you, Cheng Yang, and thank you, Sarita, for your kind words of introduction. Welcome to everyone joining virtually from all over the Asia Pacific region, and I'd specifically like to say a big welcome to Mr. Alexander Mateo, Regional Director of the Asia Pacific at the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, Mr. Bas van Rossum, Chairperson of the IFRC Youth Commission, the organizers, members of the Asia Pacific Youth Network Task Force, and everyone online and delegation from the Asia Pacific Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies and fellow volunteers. And I understand that we have more than 150 participants from 29 national societies across the region, and warmest greetings from Malaysian Red Crescent Society on this rather rainy afternoon where I am. The Asia Pacific Youth Network virtual gathering is really a unique opportunity for young leaders within this region to come together, interact throughout this 3-day period. They're able to learn about the various key topics that are of interest to the youth, from partners within and beyond the Red Crescent, Red Cross, Red Crescent Society. As part of the region's revitalization, the youth leaders will also come together to acknowledge the APYN interim committee and the 1-year plan of action for the committee to plan your year forward. And the theme, I understand, is that the theme is "We Are Extraordinary," which I think is a fantastic theme. And you will be celebrating the efforts, achievements, and individual sacrifices of all young volunteers, particularly throughout the last 2 years during this pandemic that we've all had to live through, and facing the challenges, our own personal challenges, but also still, despite it all, coming forward and supporting your national societies and contributing to your local communities and also beyond your national boundaries. And I think this is a fantastic effort on all of you, and thank you very much. The Malaysian Red Crescent Society, of which I am very proud to be the national chairperson of, is really honored to be invited as host of this regional virtual gathering. And I'm very proud that our youth volunteers are providing technical support, coordination, and the planning team at all levels of this event. So congratulations to everyone at the MRCS. We at Malaysian Red Crescent Society stand very strongly for our youth engagement and youth empowerment. And I really like to think that we walk the talk, as 70% of our membership nationally actually come from our young people. So I, as its chairperson, am committed to adopting our new constitution with the support of our members, a new constitution which has been revised and adopted in April of last year, which has set up the National Youth Council and allowing our youth, empowering them to actively participate in at all decision-making levels of governance, management, and service delivery. So our youth set their own agenda and strategies for our national society. Our youth drive youth-centric programs and initiatives, and also you advise the senior leaders such as myself on youth-related matters, as well as on other issues of governance and management. The Malaysian Red Crescent Society has also revitalized our youth policy, which is entirely drafted by our youth members. And you continue in Malaysia to conduct national youth online gatherings and reaching out to over 3,000 school students on a monthly basis. And I acknowledge that this method of reaching out is really sort of harnessed our members their motivation that despite the pandemic, we are still able to conduct and learning, teaching, and informing our young members at school levels and also beyond. So I would like to urge all members of national societies to truly invest in the youth membership and support the projects and innovations as Malaysian Red Crescent is striving to do. And in looking forward, the IFRC Strategy 2030 really remains our guiding document, and many national societies are, like ourselves, are aligning our strategies nationally to include these main challenges and transformation. And I think this is where young people and also our youth members have to play an extremely important role in shaping our national strategies for 2030. And I would like to call on my peers, the senior leaders of national societies, to continue to acknowledge and support our youth networks so that the youth members are constantly well represented and really part and parcel of the day-to-day decision-making process. I look forward to seeing the outcome of this virtual gathering, and I look forward to consider and deliberate on the board recommendations from yourselves and the outcome from this conference. And I urge you all to fully engage in this Asia Pacific Youth Network. So lastly, I'd like to thank IFRC for organizing this event and the APYN task force for working very, very hard to put this event together. I'm sorry that we cannot be together physically. However, this is the really a fantastic way to engage and get together in spite of this ongoing health crisis that we are living through. And I hope that everyone here will enjoy the sessions and have a fruitful outcome over the coming days. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye.
Great. Thank you so much, Tunku, for sharing your welcoming remarks to all of our youth participants in this virtual gathering. Next up, we would like to invite Mr. Alexander Matthew, the Regional Director for Asia Pacific at the IFRC, to deliver his opening speech.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, Your Highness Tunku Puteri Itan Safines from Malaysia Red Crescent Society, thank you so much for the warm welcome and for those excellent opening remarks. I would also like to say a particular hello to the Chair of the Youth Commission, to everyone from the Asia Pacific Youth Network Task Force, who's put so much work into preparing this conference. And of course, to everyone who's participating, all colleagues, youth and staff representatives from all the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies of the Asia Pacific region. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's lovely to be here with you. And special thank you to Malaysia Red Crescent also for supporting the event and for hosting us. So my name is Alexander Matthew. I'm the Regional Director for Asia Pacific for the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. And that means my role is to coordinate the work of the IFRC in 38 countries. And that means responding to a whole range of climate disasters, migration flows, displacement, supporting national societies in complex emergencies, of course, the pandemic response and other health crises. Well, I know you know that because many of you are involved and in the front line. And we know that those sorts of crises that we have been responding to together over the last year will be part of our lives for many years to come and many decades to come. We can expect more cyclical natural disasters, more climate events. That will mean more people are on the move. Some states tragically will fail and be unstable. And let's hope this pandemic is in its final, the worst of it is behind us, but we don't know what's around the corner. The world is unpredictable. And what we can be fairly sure about is that as we live through those crises, either close to us or regionally or on the other side of the world, we, the biggest humanitarian network in the world, will be somewhere on the front line of responding. Now, how are we going to face all of those challenges that we know are ahead of us? Well, hopefully we'll face them with energy, with ideas, with hope, with creativity, with determination that the world can and should be a safer place for everyone on it, whether they live close to us or whether they live on the other side of the world. And where are we going to look for? Where are we going to look to find all of those qualities, that creativity, that energy? Well, of course, we are going to rely on many of the people on this call, on the youth, the staff and volunteers of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, many of you. Now, from my experience, and I don't know whether you'll agree with this, and I'm sure that it's one of the things that you will be discussing over the coming days. We have so many strong Red Cross, Red Crescent youth around the world, but they have a common challenge, that they have the ideas and the energy, but they don't always have the power to realize all of their potential. I'm sure you're going to unpack that. I don't have the answer to it, I'm afraid. Power is deeply rooted in institutions all over the world, and we are no exception. But the youth is making progress. I mean, it was great to hear Tunku Puteri's examples from the Malaysia Red Crescent, but increasingly we have seen, thanks to you, in statutory events, in commitments from international conferences, Buzz on the governing board, who we're going to hear from in a moment, through networks, we are increasing the voice of youth, sharing ideas and participating more in leadership. And the more that can move forward, the better. So I would urge you, over the next couple of days, keep thinking about how to do that more, keep doing it. And thank you for all you're already doing in that space. Most of all, though, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for all the humanitarian solutions and services that you're already providing through your participation in this movement. Many of the really exciting ideas that are coming out of how we're going to respond to these climate threats, how we're going to promote better community health, are coming from small youth initiatives, innovations, enterprises that have great potential for replication. Plus, of course, as statistics continue to show, the majority of services that we do provide around the world are provided by youth volunteers. So big thank you for that. The fact that you are on this call means that you want to use your time well. The fact that you're on this call and part of the movement means that you want to give something, you want to use your energies constructively, you want to do your part to make the world a better and safer place. And those are great aspirations. I hope you keep them now and throughout the rest of your lives. And I hope that this platform, this youth platform, but the platform of the whole International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, can be a place where you can realize those ambitions. And not only, I hope, is it a place where you can give, but it's also a place where I hope you can receive great friendships and insights and learning, and remind yourself always that we are part of a big global family and global community. I know the last 2 years have not been easy for youth, particularly, I think, who have been deprived of many of the socializing and active opportunities they otherwise would have taken. But well done for keeping going, for staying part anyway, for finding creative ways to volunteer. I hope the next 2 days are going to be this whole event is going to be interesting and rewarding. And a big, big thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to Mr. Alexander for sharing his opening address on behalf of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Society. Next, we'd like to invite Mr. Bas van Rossum, the chairperson of the IFRC Youth Commission, to share his address.
All right, let's see if we can get this working. All right, thank you, Cheng. Thank you as well for the previous speakers, and a special thanks for the Malaysia Red Cross, the IFRC colleagues, and of course the APIYN Steering Committee for organizing this event. It's great to be with you today, and it's great to see some old friends and colleagues in the room, but also see some new faces. I think that really shows that the network is growing and that APYN is successful in collecting and connecting more young people around the region to share inspiring stories and to support one another. So first of all, congratulations on that. It's a real joy to be with you, despite the early hour here in the Netherlands. I'm really glad to be part of this event, also because in the last years, I've really watched APYN from a distance and see how the network has been developing from the very historic APYN, which has been very strong in many senses, to the sort of new, more modern APYN that you have created today. And I must say that APYN is really an example for many networks around the world, because I think you're championing in a few areas, such as community building, innovation, your approaches and your style of communication, but also your engagement in sub-regions and making sure that all regions from across APYN, which is of course a very diverse region, are heard and integrated and are supported through the APYN mechanisms. And all that work doesn't go unnoticed and is really an example for different networks around the world, and also an example for us as the IFRC Youth Commission, where we're learning a lot from. So thank you for that. And a special thanks as well, because it's not been easy the last 2 years to network. Yes, of course, everyone now goes digital, and I think that comes with opportunities for a network to connect more people. But it's also been difficult to engage people, I guess, because after a few months, I guess all of us experience what we call Zoom fatigue. And it's more difficult to get people on video conferences, to get their energy up for their willingness to share and learn as well. So I think all the efforts that you all have done to strengthen APYN, to strengthen its mission around sharing and learning, as well as connecting and inspiring others, has been really remarkable. And I think it really has helped national societies as well strengthen their response in times of COVID, but also strengthen their response to many other crises that we've seen. And many of those crises, as the previous speakers already alluded to, are often led on the ground by our young volunteers who drive our action. Our response to COVID, but also all the other crises that happened on top of it. I'm thinking, for instance, around the current crisis in Afghanistan, but also the volcano eruption and the following tsunami in Tonga, as well as across the Pacific, and many of the other ongoing crises, such as climate change, migration flows, but also community and individual crises that all of us are experiencing in our communities. And I think as young people, as I mentioned, and mentioned by the previous speakers as well, we're often at the front line, driving our action, making really it possible for the Red Cross Red Crescent movement to support so many people in need. But we also shouldn't forget that young people ourselves are part of our communities, are also affected by crisis and have specific vulnerabilities as a result that we as a Red Cross Red Crescent also need to cater to. And sometimes I feel that in the moment, we look to young people to help us support others and sometimes forgetting about ourselves. So I hope that during this event, when you have many of those topics on the agenda, which is quite diverse, you don't only look at what can young people give to our communities, but also how are young people affected and what can we or what must we do as a Red Cross Red Crescent to cater to some of those needs, making sure that we as a Red Cross Red Crescent support the entire community and support the different generations and the different aspects on how people are affected by crisis. Yeah, and I'm glad that that's also on the agenda of the virtual gathering. So I was scrolling through the agenda and I saw there was a wide variety of topics to discuss, which I think really reflects as well the diversity of the Asia Pacific region and the many crises that you are facing across the region. And I hope that strengthening APYN by revising the terms of reference, electing or appointing the new committee will really help you move forward on these matters and will help bring Asia Pacific national societies and specifically youth closer together. I know that we from the IFRC Youth Commission are really keen to work with the network, but also with all individual national societies to feed in some of the global processes to make sure that the APYN voice is really represented. You can think around initiatives on the revising of the youth engagement strategy for the General Assembly, not this year, but the year after, or the mental health manifesto that we're soon launching. Those are key global events where we really count on your inputs and support, as you have already provided us generously in the past. I really wish you all a wonderful conference over the next couple of days. I really look forward to be there in some of the sessions and really listen to what young people in Asia Pacific have to say and how we from the Federation and we from a global level can support you further. Thank you all for your commitment. Thank you for your commitment to the Red Cross Red Crescent, and thank you for joining this conference today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bas, for sharing your insights and message to our fellow youth. And now it's time before we go next to the next session, which is an intergeneration dialogue. We would like to share with you the second game clue. So can we have our game manager to share the clue? Okay, sorry. I think just now when I'm speaking, and my voice is still connecting. So thank you once again. I'd like to thank all the guests, distinguished guests that shared their remarks throughout the opening ceremony just now. I hope that our youth get inspired from all of the address. So now, before we go to the next event, which is the intergeneration dialogue, we are sharing with you the second game clue. I think the clue was already shown just now. Mana? Is it?
So now that we've seen the clue, it's my job to tell you about the next session. So the next session is an intergenerational dialogue being led by our lovely Marsha. And it's going to be talking a little bit about what youth and volunteering looks like in the future, and looks like now that we're heading out of the pandemic. So I'm going to hand over to Marsha. Marsha's going to be in charge of this one, and we'll see you a little bit later. Thanks very much.
See you all.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the intergenerational dialogue. Let me first introduce a little bit about myself, and then we'll go ahead with the session. My name is Marsha, and I am the governing board youth member for the Maldivian Red Crescent, and I'm also the chairperson for the South Asia Youth Network. During this session, we'll be talking about how to reimagine youth volunteerism in a post-pandemic world for the movement, social societies to attract new volunteers and retain existing volunteers, especially the younger generation. And we would also be exchanging ideas through the perspectives of various generations and experiences to devise common solutions. Today, as a panel, we have quite a few experienced volunteers and members, staffs of the movement. Let me just introduce a little bit about who are the panelists for this session. In the meantime, I'm hoping to see their faces as well from the screen. Let me introduce our first panelist, Clement Manuri. He's the Secretary General for Solomon Islands Red Cross Society. He started with Red Cross as a young volunteer 20 years ago, and over the years, he has promoted to different roles within the society. After 2 years as a youth volunteer, he was appointed as a first aid instructor in 2004, and as a health promotion officer in 2008, and appointed Deputy Secretary General in 2010, the positions he held for the past 10 years before appointed as the Secretary General. Manuri is passionate to see youths joining the movement as volunteers and staffs and holding leadership roles in their national societies. He himself had elevated from being a young volunteer to the Secretary General position. He's currently studying management and public administration and human resource management and employment relations. For our second panelist, let me introduce Dr. Muhammad Zaidi bin Arifin. He's the council member for the Singapore Red Cross. He's also part of the steering committee member, deputy director for juniors and chapters of Singapore Red Cross Youth. Zaidi joined the Red Cross movement as a Red Cross Youth Cadet member from 2001, and he had the privilege to be part of the international movement through the Youth Summit held in San Salferino in 2009, and was involved in the beginning of Asia Pacific Youth Network in 2010 as part of the coordination committee member representing Southeast Asia. He was then elected and served as the co-chair for the Southeast Asia Youth Network as well, and the chair of Asia Pacific Youth Network from 2014 to 2018. He is currently a research fellow at Nanyang Technological University doing robotics research. And for a third panelist, we have Aquila Tuinasau from the Fiji Red Cross Society. She's the Ago is the Youth Commission Chair for the Fiji Red Cross Society. By profession, Agu is a media correspondent with FemLink Pacific and is also an activist that advocates on mental health, suicide prevention, youth engagement in schools, communities, and Abu was one of the Fiji Red Cross Society representative who attended the Solferino trip at 2019. And last but not least, we also have a representative from the Korean National Red Cross, Miss Soo Young Choi, Red Cross Youth Student representative. She has been active as a youth member for the Korean Red Cross Youth since 2010. She has been both participant and leader role at a branch and national level. And since September 2019, she has participated in various Red Cross Red Crescent Youth International events as a representative from the Korean Red Cross Youth and a member of participation of committee of the Korean Red Cross Youth as well. Please welcome the panelists for the session. Thank you so much first of all, for all the speakers that could join me to do the session. And first of all, let's talk a little bit about how do you think, or what do you think makes your national society attractive to youth volunteers? Like, what are the target efforts in the area of volunteer recruitment or retention? Maybe Agu or Suyang could help me to discuss a bit more about this.
Hi, I'm Seon Choi from Korean Red Cross Youth. Korean Red Cross Youth in particular, youth volunteers are active at the school level. Youth volunteers are including students from elementary to university, and University RCY is the most active community at the moment. Korean Red Cross Youth is known for various volunteer activities and the opportunities to make the activities by their own, especially for University RCY. Actually, this is the biggest advantage. Also, it is attractive because of interactions at national level, as well as other national societies, between branches, community-based health and first aid, and related training courses. We record the participations of youth volunteers online via homepage, so the record would be very useful for getting a job at related field for youth members. These are why Korean Red Cross Youth is popular among university students. Thank you.
Mbula yes, I am Akula from the Fiji Red Cross Society. I hope you guys can hear me. For that question, how does the National Society attract young people in my National Society in Fiji? I think before the National Society attract these young people in my country, I think these young people when growing up, I think they have passion about helping people. These young people like growing up, they have passion about volunteerism in terms of the villages and the settlements they go to. But with the National Society being there, while they're growing up, seeing this very worldwide humanitarian organization, which is Red Cross, I think that is what moves them to joining Red Cross. And with the recruitment drive here in my National Society, with our 7 fundamental principle, which is the 7 fundamental principles that really helps our young people into coming into our National Society, into joining, because of the safe space they're coming into our National Society, because of when they come in to the National Society as a young people, it is a safe space for them to share what they have learned and also what been going up, and especially begin to put into activities to engage into communities organized by the National Society. And in terms of that, by helping with the vulnerables, especially during disasters, activities like that, I think, and also it is one of the things that attract young people into joining the National Society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agu and Soyoung. That was an excellent input. But I was wondering, why do we or why should youth join the Red Cross Red Crescent movement instead of the local movements or informal groups that might be free of heavy bureaucracies as the younger generation likes to move quickly? Maybe Clement or Zaidi could help me out with this question.
Thank you. I'll go. Sorry, Zaidi. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that's a good question. And I mean, Red Cross and Red Crescent movement is a reputable organization which supports and builds young volunteers to be good citizens. Most of the time we have these 7 fundamental principles. If put into action, they will definitely mold you to become a good citizen, where you have respect as well in your own communities. We have successful stories in the Solomon Islands about how young volunteers who have been seen as a criminal or somebody's drug abuse in their communities, but when they register and join Red Cross and we train them and mold them to live or abide by the 7 fundamental principles, they become respected in their communities. So we change their strength that they use it in a wrong way to a more positive way. So that's what I want to share. And there are other organizations who already also want to take on the volunteer youth programs, and sometimes they pay for these volunteers and call them volunteers, but it's always ended up that it's not what they've been doing over the years. So yeah, that's what I want to share. Thank you.
Clement?
Yeah, I'm done.
Would you like to? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Perhaps I will just chip in here. Okay, firstly, I would just like to thank everyone for inviting me. Thank the APYN for inviting me. Of course, back then, been serving APYN since like 2010 to 2018, and that was the last time that we gathered together, and I'm really glad to be here together with you guys. Some old faces, but of course, we need the transition, and we have the new faces here. I'm really glad to be able to see everyone here. So just for me to chip in, there's 2 points that I would like to just add on to this, which is firstly, I think we can talk all about the organization out there, what they have and things like that. But I think within the Red Cross itself, I think the most important thing is that it's values driven. So the fact that we have fundamental principles and the values that comes to it, I think that's really a very powerful tool that why the movement is actually quite strong, and it actually brings that sense of belonging. So what I think we've been doing, the past youth like me and the current youth, you guys are always making sure that there's the values up there through YABCs and through all the things that we do. And secondly, I think like what we have here is actually our global network and our local reach. We have a good global network whereby we have everyone getting together, knowing everyone. Previously, before COVID, we actually have it physically. We can meet up physically in KL and all. But now, thankfully, with all the technology that we have, we are able to meet up in this nice environment and have sharing of ideas. And at the same time, these ideas can be brought down to the local reach, whereby we are actually embedded in the local sense. And that's where the strength comes in. Lots of ideas generated from global, knowing what other people are doing, and then actually putting back into our local scene. And that's what makes our movement stronger in that sense compared to the rest. And that's why I would say you should be attracted to us. But at the same time, I think it's more important for us to ensure that we are a values-driven organization that really knows what we are doing. And we are always relevant to help the sick and suffering and vulnerable people. Yeah. So that's on my side. Back to you, Masha.
Apple, would you like to add something?
Yes, I just want to include something. I mean, that's a very good. But like for me, speaking from my national society, why do youth have to join my national societies in Fiji? With the biggest and largest number of unemployment in the country, I think this is the best place where you young people need to join. It is where you come in to learn a lot of new, amazing, unique information, where you learn. I mean, this is one of the example, which is one of the greatest platform that we are doing now, virtual meetings, and that is something we're learning also. And that this is something that we can also share ideas and also learn at the same time, and also to joining our national societies. Also, sometimes people have a lot of interesting talents which they have within, but and with national societies being giving out activities in terms of training young people, volunteers in our national societies, that will also help them move forward. And also we can also decrease unemployment on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Aku and Soyan, you're the youngest in this panel. So I would like to ask you that as young leaders, what do you think are the challenges that the younger generation in your country or sub-region faces with regards to volunteering? Like, for an example, could it be related to important priorities? What do you think?
I personally believe, speaking from a national society, one of the biggest challenges is the funding support. This is something, especially funding support in terms of the programs and activities that we want to implement for our volunteers, especially for different branches here in Fiji, and also funding to support our commissioners, as we also have these youth commissioners that looks after the different divisions here in my country, in my national society. I think the first one is the funding support, and secondly, it is the structure that could be something in place, you know, to trickle down to all, and also that we shouldn't be struggling into look out for leaders. With this, something that we're doing in our society is doing mentoring, to mentor young people, because we as young people, we're not going to be young, we're going to be going up to an adulthood, so we need to continue. I mean, that is the two challenges that I think are facing in the national society. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, in a Korean Red Cross use case, recently distancing due to COVID-19 would be the biggest issue. Because of the situation, interactions reduced and some members are excluded inevitably. However, we are trying to find online platforms and online activities like this APY and virtual gathering at national level. I can speak in detail about this at other questions. And also, sometimes youth leaders and national societies staffs have different opinions when it comes to progressing activities. Sometimes youth ideas seems less practical and complex. And in this case, youth leadership might not be guaranteed. I think this would be general issues in every national society. To solve this kind of issue, headquarters of Korean Red Cross hold contest every year to contest new activities, ideas, and guarantee cost and support of branch to youth members. Also, we are solving this problem through coordination of branch youth leaders and university clubs by organizing their own activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. By looking at the panel, it is very clear that you all have experienced promoting from a youth leader to volunteer to a youth leader. So I would like to talk a little bit about this transition period. I would like to open the floor to Zaidi, Suyang, and Clement as well. I'd like to know that is transitioning from youth to a senior leader. How do you think youth volunteerism has changed over the years? Like whether within the national society, regionally, globally, and how to better facilitate this transition from youth leaders to senior leaders.
So can I start? Okay.
Yes,
So yeah,
please.
okay, sure. Okay, so I think firstly for the first part whereby how has it changed? Definitely because the first time that we had this youth summit in Seoul, in 2009, Facebook just started. So during that time it was quite interesting part whereby everyone was exchanging Facebook and getting connected and all. But I think that's the difference is the fact that young people now has a lot more tools than what we have previously, and that changes the whole dynamic seen on the youth volunteerism itself. So now young people has a lot more tools that can be connected, and everyone seems to know how to connect to each other through various means to the net, and that keeps them a bit more connected and enables a lot more sharing of ideas. That's because the things that 5 years ago when we were starting with a lot of online meetings and all, we do have issues with connectivity and all, and trying to get things together as a network. But I think now with this, I think a lot more somehow or another, everyone's like moving up the step, having connected to the internet and having known how to use the platforms. There is a way, there is a change in ways of how we advocate for our ideas, advocate for our issues that we want, and also how we actually to deal with our communities and deal with the vulnerabilities. Secondly, I think how do we facilitate this transition? I think the most important part is building trust. I think trust is an important factor that you need to have between the senior leadership and the youth, and this means that you need to have committed young people that builds the trust along the way. So we didn't get to where we are here without having good committed youth leaders that builds the trust with our senior leadership, and our senior leadership trusts us. So I think this is something that we should keep in that sense. And I think a little advice for all these youth leaders out there is that do not be too eager. It's not a race to get to the top, it's really a marathon. Throughout these years, when doing APYN and all, I've seen people burning out and all. So mental wellness within volunteers itself is very important. So make sure that keep committed, make sure that you pace yourself and build the trust with your senior leaders. I think that's one way to actually keep it going for us young leaders.
Okay, just to add to the great points that mentioned, I'll just mainly talk about the change over the years. Having been in the movement for about 20 years now, there is a lot of change. Especially like with volunteers. For now, I mean, in the past, you will for the Solomon or even the Pacific, you will see more older people registered as volunteers. But it has changed over the years. For example, in the Solomons, we now have 98% of our volunteers are youth. So that's that phase. So it actually changed over the years. The next point is when you have the volunteers, youth volunteers, and then you have youth program. There are times that we tend, I mean, for my national society, tend to mix up with when are we doing the youth activities and when is the volunteer activities, because all of the people who register as volunteers are youth, and then you have the youth groups as well. So those are some of the areas, the change that I've observed over the years with the movement. as well as, we, for Solomon Red Cross, we look at youth program, but then we miss the next level down, the Junior Red Cross. It kind of slip away from our focus. Not in the past, you have Junior Red Cross, and then you have volunteers, youth, and all this. So no, even in our National Society Act of Parliament, the law, it still mentioned junior youths. I think it's because our act have never been revised for some years now. The 1983 was our the Solomon Red Cross Act, and it mentioned junior Red Cross and not youth, and so forth. So there are changes that happen over the years, which we can appreciate going through, and the changes that we encounter now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start. So I think there are more opportunities for youth participation. And because of COVID-19, digital natives nowadays, youth members' roles became more important and crucial. And as a part of participation committee of Red Cross Youth in Korean Red Cross, I want to share my experience. So when progressing the financial or administrative process of the events, senior leaders' intervention would be increased because it is essential. Since youth members are not directly included in the National Society's decision-making and administrative process, there are clearly immature parts. In this case, it would be nice for senior leaders to not limit opinions of youth members, although sometimes it might look impossible in their point of view, but just to suggest realistic and feasible measures. There are clearly differences between generations and each national society's culture and background, so we have to accept new things with more open-minded. I think this will naturally facilitate the transitions and create space for younger volunteers to become a main character of our whole activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. While we move on for the next question, I was wondering, since Soo-young, you have already mentioned that COVID-19 has played a huge role in retaining volunteers, and it has greatly changed the landscape of volunteerism as well. So what do you think should be done by national societies to adapt to these transformations so that youth will be encouraged to volunteer with national societies? Maybe along with Soo-young, Aku can also share some input for this one.
Okay, so as Masha said about whole new landscape, because of COVID-19, we met whole new world, post-pandemic world. So recently, Korean Red Cross has been actively attracting and holding online platforms. So I have two examples. Korean Red Cross Youth Headquarters had held the education of MetaBus, which is the new digital space visible and active for Youth Participation Committee. We used a program named Gather Town, and youth members learned how to make this space for activities and how to use it. It was kind of preparation of post-pandemic era of Korean Red Cross Youth. Also, on February 19th, we had a first online national camp called Save Our Planet via Zoom meeting. The activity won the first place of Beautiful Sharing Contest held by KNRC headquarters in 2020. So university RCY members organized this event by themselves and progress with national society staffs. In the event, almost like 100 members participated, from elementary to university members. In the event, there were making activity and some quiz solving activities. These events really inspired the youth volunteers in Korean Red Cross Youth, because we really felt the limitation because we have like distancing rules and whole this pandemic. Youth members have been like experiencing volunteer work in a completely new phase, a completely new space. Education of new online platform and encourage youth volunteers to organize online activities will help us to adjust this like whole new situation. If you want to like know other details or something, you can contact the Korean Red Cross Youth, I think. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suyang. Alko, would you like to add something for me?
Yes, from the Fiji Red Cross Society, I think COVID-19 wasn't something that we not only faced, but it was like a global thing that we faced. And for the National Society to adapt, I think one of the things that our National Society did, especially the young people did, and it was the first time the youth in our National Society did, was having a virtual a Zoom meet, which is having our first National Youth Forum that was held last year. It was a Zoom, it was a virtual Zoom, and this is something that our senior leaders also from our National Society even learned from that, because as we transition, I think this is something that we really face. I mean, when COVID-19 comes, there was some advantages and disadvantages that come through along the way. So one of the things that we did was the first virtual National Youth Forum, and that is something that we haven't done that before, but it was the first time, even though that we've gone through some of the challenges, but we managed to host one of the National Youth Forum where we have the different islands here in Fiji tuning in live from their Zoom in their respective divisions. And I think this is one of the ways that we share our experiences, because here in Fiji, there were two large islands, which is Viti Levu and Vanuatu. So Viti Levu is the ones that faces a lot of issues about COVID-19, while Vanuatu didn't. So one of the things that that the National Society did was exchanging dialogues, especially in exchanging, sharing of experiences. This is how young people can adapt to whether that another big issue is going to come. I think we need to be ready and adapt to whatever comes into. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Clement and Zaidi, as senior leaders present in this panel, I would like to ask that what values do young people bring to the table on the field as volunteers, and what kind of leadership is expected from the youth?
Okay, so maybe I'll start, then Clement can can share in. Okay, so I think firstly, from my experience of sitting down as a youth leader back then, and now as a council member, I think more what I've seen is that what SecGens and chairmen and council wants from the young people on the table or on the field is that they want them to speak up their ideas and bring the ideas up. But that also means that you need to have trust. I think trust is very important here that we're talking. So you need to have the trust of certain key people, and that we I think I think I've heard that some of us are quite always feel that that the youth is not being heard, and I think it's important to know who are our allies and who is actually looking out for the young people. And if you do know, then that's where you can actually speak up and share your ideas. But at the same time, you need to be able to move the idea forward. So you need to turn it to actions. You need to create our own programs, and you need to be able to tell them what are the fundings you need, what are the things that you want to address, what are the things you want to advocate, and what are the vulnerable that you want to address. And I think that is what I feel when I've been working with young people and all. At the same time, apart from trust, you do need to know your own culture of your own national society. So certain national society is a bit more rigid, certain national society is a bit more free and open and a bit more young. So you do need to know where you're coming from. So if you know that it's a bit more bureaucratic, a bit heavy, you do need to be able to provide, to know which are the spaces that you can speak up and which are the spaces that you can actually put forward your ideas. And I think overall, leaders do want to see renewal in themselves and renewal in the organization. So what they want to see is really ideas that turns into action. So not just talking, but really creating that actions and creating that programs that they want to see in the national society. So if young people or young volunteers can bring new programs that addresses new vulnerabilities or addresses the vulnerabilities in the community, I think most leaders will be open to it. It's just that you do need to know who are your allies, who are the leaders that you need to look up to. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Just to add on to the great points from Zaid, the youths, they are full of energy. So when they come to the organization, they bring that energy as well. So you can hear lots of enjoyment happening in the organization. The second one is our leaders. They have skills that it's there, but it's just to explore more. They might not practice it because they are still young and they're still yet to have the opportunity to tap on that skill. So it's good as a leader of an organization. It's good to utilize that skill, help them to come up or create avenue that they can explore their skills and put into good use for the national society or for the humanitarian work. Our youths they're eager to work. So with that eagerness, as leaders, we should tap on them to help our national or to reach further for our national society. They have innovative ideas as well. I think it's one of the important reminder for everyone now. Include youth in the planning of the national society, include youth in the activities of the national society, because they have great innovative ideas that can be properly or that can be put into use. So I think the message for us leaders is we develop those values of our youth now. In doing that, our youth volunteer engagement with the national society can go a long way into the future. So it's good to start off early, get them engaged, and you will have a better national society in the future with Red Cross minded and Red Crescent minded people. And the last one is young people are change makers. So by giving them opportunity to share their voice in our national society, we are investing in the future that is better, brighter, and it all comes back to us developing our volunteers, young volunteers now. So I think that's some of the points I want to also add to this question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the expectations from a senior leader. So in response to it, I would like to ask the young leaders present in the panelist. Young and Abu, like what is needed from senior leaders to empower youth further, and how do you think national societies could create better enabling environment to include and develop equal partnership within the youth leaders? And I would like to highlight we have very limited time, so keep it a little short and sweet for this one.
Okay, so in brief, I just want to say open-minded would be the most important thing, and giving opportunities and just help youth to do themselves, like as I have been talked in this session. So I think just also in some realistic progress, it is important to just suggest, not adjust or something. So I hope more youth can organize their own activities. Thank you.
Me, I think to me, number one is support. I think the senior leaders need to support our young leaders in terms of an intergenerational sit down, like a Talanoff session, what we always have it here in Fiji, which is the Talanoff session. This is where a platform where a senior leader and a young person will sit in a room and also dialogue on how these older people share their successful stories, and it's also going to help this young person to motivate on how they will channel themselves up to where the bright future is, where we can hold hands together to make our national society move forward. And I think for this, one of the things that I'm going to share here, which is mentor. I think mentorship. I think this is one of the very thing that really need to be addressed, and I think that really needs to be strengthened, is where we mentored other people, especially young people, because for them also too, when they grow up, I think for them to be growing up into a mindset knowing that they are a leader, not for us to go around and look for them that they. So I think basically the first thing is to support the senior leaders, to support our young ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this session, but I would like to extend my appreciation for all the panelist speakers who has joined me in sharing valuable, important experiences, along with encouraging, inspiring messages to our youth volunteers participating in the session, as well as I'm hoping that from this session the youth members who are joining this session could have understood or inspired a bit more about the new forms of youth volunteerism amidst the current situations in different national societies. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, all the participants are welcome to reach out to us in different national societies on to get more information and to get to know more inspiring stories from them as well. And I'm hoping in future sessions when we get to learn more about some of the youth-led activities inspiring us to build and develop more activities to retain and enable more volunteers into the movement. Thank you so much. That's it from my side. We'll just move on to the co-host.
Great. Thank you so much, Masha, for moderating the session just now. Also, big thanks to Clement, Zaidi, Agu, and also Suyong for sharing wonderful insights about this youth volunteering. So, Sarita would like to share something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how wonderful it was to have such a wealth of experience in that group and able to share their experiences within their own national societies and what they've seen previously. It's really wonderful to hear from each of them in turn, and also to hear some of the similarities that they've been experiencing. It's really great to be able to be part of that session.
Yes, indeed. I also like to I also like to congratulate all the participants that all of you are so very well done for being still staying with us for this session. So I think it's come nearly to the end of our Discord session. So just a head up what will be happening next. So currently there's actually an info bite session is ongoing. So if you are free, you can go to the info bite session to get some tips or new infos about this. Yep, and also after this we will have a learning session. There are 3 breakout rooms are available, which start at 4 p.m. Malaysia time. So it means that after half an hour.
The info bite that's happening now.
Okay, and for your information, the info bite happening now is from the Asia Pacific Disaster Resilience Center.
Yes.
Yeah, so although it is started, but don't worry if you miss the session, the recording is also available afterwards. So have fun with this break. You feel free to visit the info bite or networking at the launch, and we will see many of you in the thematic learning session at 4 p.m. Malaysia time. See you all.